I had been in India with Neem Karoli Baba and Ram Dass. In 1 week in India, 3 people came up to me on the street and said, "You should go to Mount Shasta." I mean, this is in India. I came up here and camped out on the mountain, fasted for 5 days. And one morning I woke up and I heard somebody talking to me. And I looked around, the sun hadn't come up yet, but it was light. I looked around, who's that? I couldn't see anybody.
Right.
But this voice, whoever it was, knew all about me, knew my past, present, and started talking about my future. Yeah, he said, "You're gonna live here." And I said, "No, I'm not. I had a farm upstate New York near I live 25 minutes from Woodstock." So the last thing he said was, "And I want you to change your name to that of the mountain." And I went, "Mount Shasta?" And he said, "That's it." And I said, "No way." See, all my friends in India took Indian last names.
Right.
And I didn't. I deliberately did not ask Maharaji for an Indian name because, I had a name, it worked for me. So to me, it seemed a little phony for an American to take a Hindu name. But then Saint Germain said, "Take Mount Shasta as your name." And I thought, that is really weird. That's even weirder. So I said, "I won't do it." And he said, "Yes, you will." And I said, "No, I won't." And then, I had this argument with Saint Germain. I didn't know it was Saint Germain at the time, but he said, "Well, we shall see. We shall see." So I said, okay. But so, about a week later, I started writing a little booklet that I had, and I thought, it doesn't hurt to use that as a pen name. So that book got published, and then a year later when I came back, people started calling me by that name. And then I was supposed to, make it a legal name, and I realized now there was some other reason that I was supposed to take that name, Shasta, that it was a name I'd had in a past life that still has some energy in it for me, and I don't know, it still remains to be seen where it's all going. There's a lot of theories about how Mount Shasta got its name. One of them is that they're French fur trappers, and they thought Mount Shasta was beautiful and pure. So in French, chaste is pure, so it's the pure mountain. But then of course you have the Chastel Indians, so it might have been named after that. But what's interesting is in Sanskrit, Shasta is someone who lives according to divine law. So a Shastra is a spiritual teacher who teaches spiritual law, teaches the Dharma. And the Shastris are the teachings. Spiritual teachings are the Shastras. The name Shasta is someone who tries to live according to divine law, which is what I try to do.
Come on.
Oh, there they go. Whoa. Okay, that's about better than hitting a tree. I've kind of jumped ahead here to my second trip to Mount Shasta. I didn't want to be on the earth anymore. I lived with a yogi in the Himalayas who was getting ready to leave his body. These guys can do that when they want. They just leave their body and they go to a higher plane. So I thought, that sounds good. I was staying in Berkeley, living on somebody's floor. See, I was staying on Jayutal's floor, and this ball of light came down into the living room and said, "Go to Muir Woods. I'll meet you there." But I didn't know who it was. So it was like 8 o'clock in the morning. It was pouring rain. And I drove out there. I was the only one in the parking lot. And I went out into the forest and I found a tree that was hollow from a fire, a big redwood tree. So I got inside to get out of the rain. And I started doing this Vipassana meditation where you just feel the in-breath and the out-breath. And my eyes were open. I was looking down at the forest floor. Well, I should really, before I leave my body, I should ask permission from somebody. The story was that when you become enlightened, you just merge with the infinite and you're gone. So I didn't think there was really anybody up there who knew about me or listened to me or anything. But I thought, just in case, I should pray. So I prayed to Jesus and maybe even Moses, I don't know, and Sai Baba and Saint Germain, every master I could think of.
Including Saint Germain.
Krishna and, including I went down the list, Mother Mary. And so I was sitting there.
Please.
I was sitting there just doing the Vipassana, and suddenly a guy materialized out of thin air, like Obi-Wan Kenobi, in front of me, just wearing jeans, regular guy about my age. And he said, "Peter, your prayer has been heard." And I thought, how does this guy know my name, He said, "I am the part of the Godhead that has been sent to answer your prayer." And I thought, that's interesting. It's the first time in my life a prayer has been answered. He said, "You can leave your body if you want, but I want to show you something first before you give me your answer." Then he touched me on the third eye. Next thing I know, I'm outside my body, looking back. There's the physical body there. There's another body here. And then he put his arm around me, and he took me up off the earth somewhere.
You were feeling him tangibly?
Oh, yeah, just like you.
Okay, like you did.
Yeah.
Here. Okay.
Yeah. And, but, he didn't look like the pictures of Saint Germain, just a regular hiker or something. And the next thing I know, we're in this realm where beings were balls of light emanating rainbow colors, which I know now is the I am presence, or the Atman of the soul. It's like the permanent self. It was just, and these beings were like in a state of bliss, emanating like they were balls of light, like about that big, emanating beautiful rainbow colors. And the bliss was overwhelming. And I said, this is it. This is where I want to stay. No artwork can really do it justice. Different artists have portrayed it differently. So it shows the higher self, and then this would be like your Christ self, or like your higher mental body, and then the human self. He kind of smiled, and then I heard crying coming from someplace, and the crying got louder and louder, and it really became unbearable. And I looked around to see where it was coming from, and I saw the earth below me. He said, "That is the suffering of humanity." And I said, "I can't leave. I want to go back and help people." And he smiled. He said, "You made the right choice." So he said, "I want you to go to Mount Shasta, and the first person you see there will tell you what to do next."
Wonderful.
So the next thing, I'm back in my body in Muir Woods, and there's this kid standing in front of me, young guy. I mean, not kid, he was my age,
Right.
And he said, "Now I'll show you who I am." So he takes a few steps back like this, and he turns into this master wearing a white robe, and then he just faded out, disappeared, Obi-Wan Kenobi, by
Beautiful.
the Force is with you, that kind of thing, So I got in my car. There was still no one in the parking lot. It was still raining. I got in my car, and I drove
Where are we in, Peter?
72. That might have been then 73. Then I was sitting there. He said, "The first person you see will tell you what to do next." So some guy came up to me, my age. He said, "You've got to call this lady by the name of Pearl." And he said, "Come on over when you're done breakfast." So I went over. I said, "I don't know who Pearl is, but I was told to do what the first person said."
Right.
I went up to Pearl's house on B Street in town. Here's this little, like, grandmotherly lady, like Yoda. Opens the door. She says, "I've been expecting you, my dear. Come in." And I said, "How could you be expecting me?"
Right.
She said, "The Master Saint Germain came to me this morning and said he was sending you to see me."
Beautiful.
Here's my teacher, Pearl. That's in her garden. She loved sunflowers, obviously. And here's a picture of me with Pearl at Bernie Falls. Here I am on my farm after, that's probably 1972, after I came back from India. I lived off the land pretty much. Oh, here's me with Ram Dass. That's me there. Well, that's the whole group I was with in India. I'm not in that photo. They said, we're taking photo now, and I said, that's an ego trip. I don't want any part of it. So now I kick myself that I did. I was like in my room around the corner, So. And there's another picture of Saint Germain. And, oh, that's strange. Where is that? I have a much better picture someplace. Oh, okay, I found it. That's how I used to see Saint Germain on the etheric plane. That's more his light body appearance. She said, what do you think brought you here?
Right,
And I
right,
said, well,
right.
this guy appeared in front of me, she said, well, who do you think that was? And of course, the picture of Saint Germain was on,
behind her
it
back.
was that
Yeah,
guy.
all right.
And then she said, he's teaching you, he's talking to you. And I said, I don't hear a thing. And would you channel a message, you know, from him?
Right.
She said, no, I don't channel, that would weaken you. And I said, well, I don't hear anything.
Right.
And she said, he's talking to you on a higher level. You're storing what he's saying. When it's time for you to act, you will intuitively know what to do. You're supposed to learn to get your guidance from your own heart, your own intuition, you know, not from messages from other people.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for sharing
My
that.
teacher, Sai Baba, I visited in India. I heard he had a cup of coffee in the mornings, and when I make my coffee, I sort of offer it to him. Nice sound. You know, she asked me where I'd been. I told her about all these gurus, you know, that I'd met in India, and Neem Karoli Baba and Sai Baba and so on. And then I kind of said, well, you know, like, what do you do? She said, I work with the inner presence, you know. And I said, well, how does that work? She said, would you like to meditate? And I said, sure. I was going to get in lotus, sit down on the floor and, you know, close my eyes, full lotus and meditate. And she said, you don't need to sit on the floor to meditate. And I said, really? And then she said, you don't even need to close your eyes to meditate. Just turn your attention inward and feel the presence in your heart. That's like what Trungpa Rinpoche calls the soft spot. It's like, if I say, who are you? You don't point to your head or your arm. Why do you go here? Me. She said, meditate on that spot there, the feeling there, and know that there's a flame anchored there. And then, you know, as I was looking at her, this light started to come in, and then she said, now say, I am the living light. And when I said that, it's like someone turned the light on in the room. And I said, I've seen the light. Like, it was a scene out of the Blues Brothers, you know, John Belushi doing I've seen the light. I always heard about the light. Have you seen the light? And I said, I just saw the light. And she said, whatever you say after I am is what you create. So you say, I am the light, you see light. If I am health, I am abundance, I am bringing to me everything that I need. And then you just, everything after I am is what you create. So, you know, better to say positive things than negative things, you know. So that was the essence of her teachings. And I thought all those gurus I met in India that could precipitate things, work miracles, you know, walk on water or whatever, not one of them taught me this. Even Neem Karoli Baba, I sat at his feet on and off for 6 months. He never taught me this, you know. I mean, I guess he knew the time would come when I would get it, you know. Or he didn't, whatever. But now he appeared to me since then, and he said, you finally got it.
Oh, good. Well,
you're a little slow,
we
but
got a
you finally got it. You know what I mean?
Now you have
This is where we were the other day up here in Bunny Flat. This is sort of heavy. It actually belongs to my daughter. It's a model of Excalibur. I'm not just, you know, on an ego trip there. It's symbolic. That's the image of Manjusri, who uses the sword of discriminating intelligence to cut through the knot of ignorance. So we can all manifest that quality. So if you visualize yourself with a sword of wisdom, then you cut through the knot of ignorance. It's a tantric visualization. You're not supposed to be saying, hey, look at me, I've got a sword and all that stuff. And Mount Shasta then was a real kind of logging community. There were signs up downtown that said no hippies allowed, no long hairs, all that. People would make derogatory. Yeah, I had real long hair. I was wearing all my white kurta, sandals. I had a big malla, you know. And people would say, hey, hippie, why don't you get a job, you know, stuff like that. So this is my passport photo from 1972. I know one time was one of my books I was writing. It was called Search for the Guru, one of my autobiographical books. And I got so frustrated with it, I almost deleted the whole thing and said, screw it, you know. But I said, before I do that, I'm going to come up here and pray, you know. And I came up here and I heard, turn around, there's people waiting for you in the parking lot. And I went, give me a break, you know. It's like, and I kept going. I was just going to walk up and leave my body on the mountain. I was just going to lie down in the snow and go to sleep, you know. And he finally said, you know, the third time he said, I said, go back to the parking lot. So I said, okay, I can still go up and I'll go to the parking lot, you know, and then I can go back up. So I walked down there. There was 150 Indian people in the parking lot. And this guy said, Peter, I've been sending you emails. Our group wanted to meet with you. And I hadn't answered them because I didn't want to be bothered. You know, I just like to meditate and be alone and stuff. He said, would you meditate with us? Well, 150 sat down right in the parking lot and meditated for a while. People think the masters are all serious, and especially those pictures of El Morya and Kuthumi, they look like real serious. I mean, they have a great sense of humor and they laugh. They like to laugh and they appreciate our humor. And so Saint Germain, I was getting the title of my new book was supposed to be It Is What It Is, but I kept having doubts about that wasn't serious enough. You know, it's a collection of short stories and some of them are humorous, but so I kept, every day I'd sit down to write, I'd come up with a new title for the book. But it was coming down, it was all finished, I was editing, and I still wasn't sure about the title. So I'm walking out of the patio at Seven Suns. This guy walks by me, and he turns and looks back at me, says, it is what it is, and then he turns, walks away, and disappeared into thin air. That was Saint Germain. So, okay, the book is It Is What It Is, you know. I think the path, my path is getting simpler. I might end up as a Taoist or something, you know, just to be in the present moment. Yeah. And you know, there's so much emphasis in a lot of spiritual circles around ascending, or also being in the oneness, you know, and like, screw everything else, I'm going to be in the oneness, you know what I mean? But I think what we're learning really is to be here, you know, to be present. In a sense, like Ram Dass's thing, be here now, is becoming more and more my, you know, what I live by. Yeah. That, like, we climb the mountain, you know, and the goal is to, like, get to the top. That's where everyone sees the spiritual path as we want to get to the summit. But then you get close to the summit, and it says, now go back down. You're here to help people. The people are not up on top of the mountain. They're in the village, you know. So it's to hang out with people. Yeah.